Hello. I also just have to call out, this is my first Media Post Summit. It has been incredible. The small format, the intimate setting, the honest discussions. Like I came here to find people with similar problem sets and find people that had the same or solutions to it. And it's been fantastic. So thanks to the team. Thanks for inviting me here. And especially thank you for letting me speak. I'm sure you expected to hear from a man when we're talking about women's healthcare. I assure you my team is mostly female. Actually, on marketing, almost 100%. I run performance marketing, lifecycle marketing, and data. So I can talk a little bit about our performance marketing strategy, but mostly like our end-to-end. We talked about omni-channel. I'll talk about like end-to-end funnel. All right. So a little bit about Wisp, if you're not familiar. We are a telehealth, telemedicine company, especially obviously in women's healthcare, specifically reproductive healthcare and sexual wellness. We've recently branched into fertility, menopause, and weight care, but weight care very specific to menopause, to fertility. So we don't play with the big boys like hims and hers. She's coming to us for a very specific purpose. The value prop of Wisp is our roots are in acute care, same day treatment like a UTI or a yeast infection, avoid the waiting room of the urgent care, and hopefully not ER, but sometimes that's the case. Oftentimes we can prescribe in less than 3 hours. The biggest thing about the business model, which is unique, is certainly patient empowerment. We've talked a lot about that, about how people are taking control of their healthcare a lot more. That's how Wisp was born. If you went to our site, hellowisp.com, you'd notice it almost functions more like an e-com site than it does a healthcare site. And that's very purposeful to give her choice. Oftentimes she knows so much more about her body as she's coming into our site and what she needs same day. So it's very purposeful, purposely built and purposely driven. But there's, in the marketing space in women's healthcare, there's challenges, candidly. A lot of headwinds that we face, especially B2C. Marketing, that direct to patient. So what we're seeing, we've heard it talked about a lot, are the restrictions on PHI, what we can and what we can't send to our third-party advertising partners. And our roots were pre-COVID, and then we ramped very heavily, like many other telehealth providers in COVID. And so we play very heavily into digital channels like SEM, like Meta, and other paid social channels. And so it's gotten more restrictive in the last few years, and we've obviously leaned into that, but it's presented challenges for how much we can target, how much we can segment. Like I've loved all these presentations about targeting, segmentation, using AI, building propensity models, and my roots are in e-com, and I want to do all of that. Like I'm a data and analytics guy at my core. There's just a reality to what we can and what we can't do in a lot of these channels. So we take a tiered approach, which I'll talk about, but ultimately our content and creative has to win. We have to grab her attention. We have to make her aware of something that can be such a boon for her. And an alternative to that traditional urgent care and emergency room model. And there's also other challenges we face, candidly. There's still stigma. Using the clinical terms like vagina and vulva. We get flagged for ad units all the time. I can guarantee you in this 20-minute presentation, I will get an email that says your ad set has been rejected. It happens all the time. We go to reapproval. My team spends a lot of time with our reps, understanding how we can push the boundaries in each channel. We've talked a lot about the political environment. We don't play red or blue, but there is a lot of adversity in the reproductive health space, and we're learning how to navigate that very carefully. My boss, the CEO of Wisp, Monica, she was recently on CNN pointing to this fact that the day after the election, our emergency contraception sales were up 1,000% day over day. And that stuck for 2 to 3 weeks. We've kind of normalized since then, but it just gives that like that anxiety that's out there in the market. So again, why am I here? Just to talk about, with all these restrictions, with all these headwinds, with sometimes our inability to target and segment as much as I'd want to, the creative really does have to win, and that's why I'm here. And so my peer, Jenny, was here last year, I think in the Poconos last year, talking about provocative marketing, and I'm here to reinforce that, and I'll talk about how that works in more multi-channel. I think she talked more about out of home. But this is my favorite slide because the visual speaks for itself. This is our brand voice. This is our brand DNA. We do try to capture that attention so we can give her the clinical care and medical care that she needs, but we have to make her aware of that. And so the top left image here It was actually a partnership we did with a company called Day. If you're not familiar with them, they offer period care products, and they're innovating in vaginal microbiome tests that's in tampon form. So like really innovating on the cusp of women's healthcare. So we did a campaign, out of home campaign, that's actually in Chicago, in case anybody saw that on the road. I have a funny story about that later that I might talk about on the panel. The bottom left ad has probably been shown here before, but I'm going to reinforce it. That is actually the first ad that we are aware of in Times Square that use the term vagina. So destigmatizing healthcare is really important for us. And not the top right, but the middle top, I should have gotten a better picture of this, and I apologize. But the words up there on the right are "get vaginal care faster than this ad will get taken down," which I think is pretty powerful. And we ran that campaign in New York. So I would love to have our provocative, bold, brash messaging in every single channel. But there's a reality. We have to balance that brand voice and DNA with competition, what the market is doing. We have to look at our own mission and vision. We have to look at how our team members view the brand. We have outcomes and business objectives to hit as well. So again, we have to be cognizant of how we're marketing to her, how we're communicating in each channel. This is a very hastily put together Venn diagram. It's not meant to be a Venn diagram. It's terrible now that I'm looking at it. But I'm on day 3, so it doesn't matter. So this is generally the marketing approach we will take. This is probably the biggest thing that I think about on a daily basis is how are we speaking to her, how are we creating awareness, consideration, and getting all the way down to conversion or revenue. So I call this like the arrow of provocation, which I think I called it provocation. Look at me. So in out of home, that's where we can be the boldest, the brashest, oftentimes, hence that Times Square ad. In life cycle, once she's engaged with us, whether it's purchasing, whether it's giving her email address, whether it's signing up for SMS messaging, that's when we can really communicate with her, and also and go for bold, but then education and giving her awareness of all the treatments that we offer. Influencer, we've talked a lot about influencer. I don't mean HCPs or PCPs here. I actually mean people who have lived experiences with Wisp. So people who have been treated for any of these or use some of our OTC or custom formulated products. So it's like-minded personas. And that can be a range of how bold and brash. Some of it's very, very bold because it's in their own channels, their own properties on social. We get tagged, obviously, but they can be a little bit more out there. And some are just more pure educational and clinical. And it's a balance, and we try to strike that. In our digital out-of-home, in podcast, streaming, audio, and TV, I like to call this opportunistically bold. It's really focused on that channel that we're in, the podcast that we play in. Some we can speak to that brand voice or that podcast property's voice a little bit more. But again, it's kind of getting more down to value prop, business model, treatments, care, etc. In paid social, that's where the screws start to tighten a little bit. There's certain like treatment groups that we can do, say in Meta versus YouTube, versus Pinterest or Reddit, and we're constantly knocking on the door to see what categories we can get unlocked. My team are bulldogs, and I love it, and they just go after it. Yeah, I like that. That's the engagement we need on day 3. Take the pressure off of me. And then, bottom of the funnel search. I mean, it's much more about the value prop, how we're differentiating from other care that's in the market. Of course, we have competitors as well, so we tend to have an aggressive strategy to react to the competition. But at the end of the day, we are trying to be a resource for her and grow the business. So I put the blue bar underneath here because that's what I think about every day in every channel is how is our creative going to win, and how are we going to push it to the limit. And so just to bring this to life a little bit, this is a much more organized slide, but this is an example or an illustration in recent times of how we might have messaging in all channels or full funnel. So there is that Times Square ad that I was pointing out. That's actually a real-time look at it. The second image makes me sad, candidly, but this was recently. This is a life cycle campaign because the reproductiverights.gov site was taken down it seems like a few months ago. It's like a few weeks ago. And it was actually reinstated, but we tried to be a resource for our patients for emergency contraception, for birth control. and for controlling your cycle. At the same time, this will be an interesting picture for some because I'm saying, hey, this is women's healthcare, and 95% of our business, of our 1.3 million patients we've ever served, really has been female or female at birth. But we do serve some chronic care treatments like herpes. And so this is actually an ad very specific to that using male imagery. And, we are seeing a little bit of growth, and that's not where we lean into. It's not like our target, like bullseye that we're going after. But it is a pretty provocative ad that I wanted to show. And this is where we push the limits in social a little bit. And then the right two here are pretty typical search ads that are focusing on that same day treatment value prop. They're focused on symptoms quizzes. A lot of individuals come to us maybe not knowing exactly what they have, so we point them that direction. So that was a lot of words and a lot of images, and I'm just so happy to have a dialogue. If there's any questions, I'm just so proud and honored to be up here with so many talented marketers, and thank you for my first conference.
Tim, thank you so much. It really boggles my mind that you get a rejected ad request every single day just for having the word vagina in your advertisements. Like, how do you not get discouraged every day?
That is a great question. I don't know if it's honestly, my team is so mission driven. Like, if you did a survey of all of our FTEs, I would almost bet 95 to 100% of them were drawn into the mission. And I think when you're bought into that mission and vision, and you have such high empathy for the patient experience and what you're trying to do, I don't think discouragement is part of the game. I think we just power through it and do as much as we can. Yes, I won't lie. There's days where I have some pretty tough conversations with our ad reps. I think most of us probably are in bi-weekly calls or monthly calls with our rep teams. I'm on weekly calls because we've had so many issues and we have to kind of stay on top of it.
Any other questions for Tim?
Hey, Tim, this is a great presentation. I really paid attention, like I told you before you started.
Get it. I purposely grabbed you in the hall because of that.
Okay. Okay. Sunny Yarish. So I really loved that chart you showing the provocation.
Yeah.
And nicely done. I have not seen that before. So I'm just curious, for the telehealth company, the business you're in, seem like you're doing a lot of pushing the creative limits and really be on social influencers. Just curious how you structure your marketing organization.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I run more of the growth side of the house, hence my title. I have a counterpart who runs the brand and creative strategy. I'm here on her behalf. She's the brains of the organization, but it's really her team that's driving that. And then our team is rapidly iterating on that creative. So we operate really in tandem. My team and the creative team have almost daily briefs about what we're going to market with, especially in paid social. So we have so many assets and we've tested so much and we tend to know what works that we can go really quickly. Even on a new product release, we tend to be able to turn those around in just a few days. We have a really tight relationship with our compliance and privacy team as well, which helps. So did that answer your question? Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Tim? Once, twice. Tim, thank you so much.